Welcome to Every Day is a New Day.
Kim O'Neill from KimO'NeillCoaching.com.
We are live.
Hey everyone.
Welcome to another episode of Every Day is a New Day. I'm your host, Kim O'Neill, and you are watching the show where I have inspiring conversations with amazing guests about moving forward and choosing to embrace a positive outlook. In addition to being your host today, I'm also a personal empowerment and interview confidence coach. And if you'd like to find out more about the coaching that I do, you can always go to KimO'NeillCoaching.com and find out more. And if you're watching us live, that means you've found us on Facebook at Kim O'Neill Coaching. Or if you're watching the replay, you found us. Oh my goodness, look at that, just fell right out. If you're watching the replay, that means you found us, in addition to Facebook, over on YouTube or on bingenetworks.tv on the Every Day is a New Day channel. Either way, hello, we love to have you here. Please do like, comment, and share. We love to interact with you live during the show, but also after. And your likes not only help me, my guests, and the show, but also all those people who are going to benefit from today's conversation. So we appreciate all that you do there. With that said, I want to welcome our guest today, which is Jena Rodriguez. So hello, Jena.
Hello everyone. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you, Kim, for having me. This is amazing.
Absolutely. I'm excited because she is a powerhouse. I think you can just get that just by, you exude it already right there. So
that's cool.
You do.
Thank you.
For formality's sake, I am going to go ahead and just read your bio, and then we'll get into the flow of the conversation. So let me go ahead and pull that up. I got it right here. So if this is the first time that you're meeting Jena Rodriguez, she is a brand, business, and Brave strategist. And she's the founder of Brave Masters, Inc., which is committed to boosting brand clarity, catapulting profits, and unleashing the full human potential of entrepreneurs internationally. She teaches service-based business owners how to capitalize on their natural abilities and package and price their greatest strengths so that they can create a money-making, world-changing brand. Over the last decade as an entrepreneur, Jena has learned that the one thing needed to reach one's fullest potential in life and in business is brave. Being brave is about saying yes without evidence, moving through fear, and being uncomfortable yet doing it anyways. Right? Oh my gosh. By getting her brave on, Jena was able to move from charging $89 an hour to generating over, drum roll, $1.2 million in revenue over the last 4.5 years. And that's just a little bit of it. So, I think right there, that tells everyone, wow, she's a powerhouse.
Wow. I know. I'm like, I got to pinch myself sometimes, right? Like,
oh my gosh, Jena, that's amazing. So I want to just get right into it. Were you always as brave as you are today?
Yeah. So here's why brave even showed up as a conversation for me. Okay. Is about 4 years ago, I was standing on a stage and I said, I'm in the moment, I'm talking to everyone and I'm just being with people. And I said, listen, guys, entrepreneurship's not the easy way. It's the brave way. And from that moment, I was like, wow, I need to write that one down. Right. And then, so it became a very strong point of view, strong motto that I live by. But then I stopped and looked backwards and asked myself the same question. Like, have I always been brave? Like, is brave the thing that I'm familiar with? Right. And so I'll be very transparent. I think I have to some level been brave from the moment, my some of my childhood after my parents divorced ended up in some abusive and, physically abusive and alcoholism and things like that in the household. And I moved out at 14 years old. And so I think my brave in my younger years was more about survival. And so now it's not so much about surviving. It's about choice. And so I can say that I definitely have some type of natural instinct to be brave and do things and kind of like, but I know it's because there was a conditioning around being in survival mode. And I'm sure people can relate. It's like sometimes when you have to, you just do whatever you got to do. And I know that's what existed for me for a long time. And it was really, really hard. And I just, for whatever reason, I mean, I moved like probably 20 times between birth and 25 years old. And then, I'm from Houston, Texas. It's where I am. And so I eventually came back, I moved away from Houston early on, and eventually came back in 1999 and started to get some stability and, met my husband and all those good things. But, the short answer is, yeah, I think Brave always has been there. I just never really owned it. And I never really, certainly being a Brave Master is about self-reflection and awareness and, owning it. And, it's like to being in choice about it. So yes, and it's changed, right? It's kind of made a different impact in my life. So yeah. I believe everybody's got it. We just got to like facilitate it. We got to pull it out a little bit, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So what was that like when you realized that, and I realize it may not be just one moment, but what was it like when you realized, okay, I've been in survival mode. And so I've been good and strong and brave for that time, but now it's time to make that shift and continue to carry that strength and brave forward, but from a different place. What do you recall that?
Yeah. That's interesting. I'm trying to like pinpoint it, but it definitely, because it was almost in my nature to just do it, right?
Yeah,
just get it done. Just keep moving. Don't quit. Just, and part of my story is, when I got out of corporate America, I jumped into a business that was pre-existing. I bought it. I invested, got an SBA loan. I did all those things. And 1 year in, I had to file bankruptcy. And so 700,000 in debt was like, what am I supposed to do? And it wasn't working. It was bleeding cash and things like that. And so, and that's not that again, that sense of survival was at that moment. And so it's like, I got to do something different. I just got to figure it out. And so as I've been an entrepreneur now 12 years, and that first business didn't work. But then I jumped into a partnership with my husband, and he was running a web and graphic design company. And I said, I don't want to work for someone, right? However, I got to figure this out. Like, what are we going to do? And so it was it was like necessity, got to pay the bills, got to get the mortgage covered. And so I think the moment really when I said that from stage and had the ability to self-reflect and go, wow, where'd that come from? That was the moment, because that was now 6 years later. And I had moved into a space where I was taking risks. I was pushing myself into things uncomfortably, but I started making those conscious choices to do that, such as speaking for the first time or getting on bigger stages or, like raising my prices and stepping into my value. Like those things were choices by then. And it wasn't necessarily about a have to, it was a conscious decision to design my business lifestyle on purpose. And so when I got intentional, and there was a pivotal moment in 2012 when intention was like on point, because I had reached a point in the business with my husband where I said, this isn't working. I define success in a different way, and I want to do something different. And we're tied together in the way it is now. And it was actually a really, really, really hard conversation to say, I don't want to be a partner anymore in the business. And so good to say is that we'll celebrate 17 years together in December of this year. Yay. And the ups and downs have definitely been there. But, when I made that decision in 2012, I started to step into the decision to be brave and to like really have the hard conversations, make the hard decisions, put myself out there in uncomfortable ways. Like that's when the choice started to happen. And then a year in, I was like, where'd that comment come from? Right. And so here we are. And I'll just say this really quick. I renamed my business last year to Brave Masters. So that's a new iteration of who I am as well. So yeah, brave decisions.
I love it. That was a hugely brave decision to be able to have that difficult conversation with your husband. I mean, I imagine I don't know, because I wasn't there, but even if it turned out to be easier than you thought, I mean, just the idea of, oh my gosh, have this conversation with the person I'm married to.
Right, completely. And transparently, it got a little worse before it got better, because our identities kind of our comfort levels and our identities together. And what do we do now? Like, he was like, what do I do now? And his desire was to go back to his music business, and he did. And that's what he does full time now, right? That is who he is. And that's when I met him, he was on stage, right? Okay. So, and so he desired that, but he had to get brave as well. And so I talk a lot about the ripple effect of brave. Right. So when you get honest with self and you're authentic to like, this is what I need for me. And even if the conversation is going to rip my heart out, or, it just looks like it's going to be the end of the world, sometimes you've got to have it in order to be true to yourself. Right. And that was a pivotal moment for me. And it was a huge lesson because, it's not the end of them by any means.
Right. Okay. So what do you do when you realize, okay, I've got to have this brave moment, whatever it is, whether it's a difficult conversation or saying no to something that other people won't agree with, whatever it may be. Do you have any practices or mindsets or anything that you do to help you get through that conversation or that period where you got to do it?
Yeah. So number one, I do know when I am smart enough to hire help. So okay, I personally do have a mindset coach that is brilliant. And I've actually been in transformational work and personal development since I was a teenager, trying to break through the survival mode and the victim and all that. And so I will honestly say she's a pivotal and very important part of how I can shift things because of what she's taught me. And so, yes, there is a practice and there is an awareness to, number one, knowing. It's kind of like identifying the difference between your ego and what she calls the survivor, because that's going to try to protect you at all costs, right? And then knowing the difference between ego and higher self and like really who we are, right? Yeah. And so that's been my practice, especially for the last 8 years, and knowing her and her work and just really offering that to me. And so now it's a practice, and so when I can see the decision needs to be made, or I'm feeling a reaction, or I'm feeling like out of sorts, or like I see possibility, but why am I not moving towards it? Right. I'll give you an example so that I can really pinpoint. Is back in basically last November, December of 2017, I said, okay, Jena, you've built this business getting highly visible in person through speaking and, visibility strategies, but it's time to take yourself big online, right? Like go really big and visible, and, I don't even know who's watching right now, right? Right. It's kind of like uncomfortable at times. So, you celebritize yourself online, and, and I made that decision, but I was like, why am I hesitating? What's holding me back? And so because I have the practical implementation called the self-awareness, and I started to inquire with myself more. And I just said, okay, so I made this decision. Why am I not committing to it and taking the action? Like what's stopping me? And so nothing outside of me is stopping me. It's me. I'm clear, and anything we want, it's really us that's in the way. Right. Yep. So it took me about a week of just like really like opening the space and going, okay, like reveal to me what this is. I don't know, I don't have the answer right away. And then I just go on with my life. Right. Mm-hmm. And so I was searching Facebook, and I came across Tony Robbins. I've known him since Personal Power tapes on cassette, right? Okay. And anyway, so I follow him, and he shows up on my news feed, and I came across his post, and usually I don't look at him. I mean, I see his post or I usually don't look at the comments, and I see his post and I'm like, oh, he's advertising his next event. Okay, cool. And for some reason I started reading the 300 comments, and I only got through 10. And it was like in the middle of 300. And oh my gosh, the hate, the meanness, the judgment, and all that. Right. So anyway, my reaction to that, I immediately saw why I was hesitating. Is because I had a fear underlying the decision. And so for being a brave master, it requires 3 things is in my book. So 1, decide. You got to get off the fence. You can't, don't sit there. It hurts. And then 2, you have to commit, and you have to commit, and you have to commit, and commit then leads to you got to take some type of action. And so I decided, but I wasn't, and I'm like, all right, I'm committed to this. Like, but why am I not taking the action? And so in that very split second, I was like, that's what the illusion, right? That I'm going to get judged. I'm going to have hate. I'm going to have people that hate me, don't like me, and all that, that kind of emotional place. And so in that moment, I was able to bring it from my subconscious to my conscious, mind, and go, all right, now let's look at the reality of this. Yes, it may very well happen, but not being aware of it is what was on autopilot, right? And so that's the practice for me, is when I make decisions and I'm not immediately taking action, or when I'm in reaction of some sort, then I go into the inquiry process and start to, or get coaching if I need it, right? And if it's painful or emotionally, upsetting or something. But I wasn't in that space. I was just in like, what's going on with myself, right? Yeah. So that has really been my go-to. And that was just one example of like this and what the opportunity for me to serve. And just like you, like we're serving people in a big way this way, right? I knew the potential was huge, but I'm like, why am I not doing something about it? So I had to look at me first. And that's how I do it.
I love that you acknowledged looking at you. And I'm curious, when you think back, did you know even what action you would take? Or is it possible? Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, I had made some decisions called, okay, I'm going to commit to Facebook Lives. Hadn't done them before.
Okay, got it.
Scared to death. I was like, I would not be comfortable. This is me comfortable now. Okay. And so I was like, I don't know the technology. I don't know, what am I supposed to say? Nobody's there, and of course you're here in this moment, but usually you're by yourself.
I totally get it. Yeah. I get it. We were just having a conversation in one of my mastermind groups.
Yes.
Yeah, it's like by yourself. It's like deer in the headlights. Hi, I'm your friend. Yeah, I'm on video. What should I say?
Yeah, and so and being really raw and real and authentic, and you don't even know who's watching, and you don't know who's going to watch, right?
Yes.
Like, woo, and judgment, and and so I had made some decisions, and I've built a course, and I've built things that I'm like, we're going big, we're going Facebook ad big, we're going to start, like hitting, I want to hit 1 million people, and I'm like, I'm pretty sure 1 million people aren't going to love me. All of them aren't going to like me at some point. Who knows, right? But I can dream. That everybody doesn't.
It's possible, but I totally get what you're saying. Yes.
Yeah, like the probability. But anyway, and the truth is I am very big on creating, my experience. And honestly, I have gotten busy with Facebook ads and lives, and I've done it. I've made it happen, and I'm still growing in that arena. And knock on wood, nobody's given me any hate that I know of.
Yeah, not on some big wood right now.
Yeah, I'm like, if you don't have something nice to say, just don't tell me. I'm just like, I don't want to know. But so it's like, notice though that how much we make up to keep ourselves safe. It's like, if I make that up, then I don't have to do anything about it.
Right. So okay. So then, what really helped you in getting over that hurdle? So you enlisted support, or a coach to help you with the mindset. But was there anything you had to do to really psych yourself up, or did you wait until you really reached a certain point where you're like, okay, now I'm confident, now it's a breeze? Or did you feel the fear and then do it? That kind of thing.
Yeah. So for sure. My brave motto and my brave kind of 10 commandments, if you want to call them. One is say yes and do it anyway and figure it out, right? Just do it. And the other is, step into the fear. And what I know is action annihilates fear. So it completely, it's almost like it totally can't exist in the same space. Now, I've jumped out of airplanes and I've zip lined and I was scared to death, but I did it anyway. And I felt the fear and jumped, you got to still take action. So no, I did not over prepare. That would completely create procrastination for myself. Or waiting for what? What am I waiting for? The only way confidence is elevated is by practice, is by riding the bike. Like how confident were we when we first got on a bike? Not so much, right? So, and now it's a breeze, if you did it enough. And so with anything, the Facebook Live, speaking, running a business, I mean, whatever it is you're up to, right? Whether or maybe you're climbing the corporate ladder, you have to take the action in order to have any type of result. And the willingness is that it fails or flops or doesn't work out the way you plan, and that you're still going to be okay. And so I've proven it to myself so many times at this point that as long as I can frame it, and reframe it, and like I said, identify that something's actually going on with myself, that's either on autopilot or I'm not seeing it for myself, right? That self-reflection, then I can take ownership and I can choose in it, right? It really becomes a choice at that point. And so I choose in. I have to lean into it versus run, knowing that it's like really not going to harm me. If somebody does say something nasty, I'm like, I can just bless them and go, I thanks for watching. I mean, like, I know you can't. Yeah, exactly. Right. You can't make them all happy. And honestly, it's like forgiveness, right? Forgiveness for self, forgiveness for others, and just pray that they, they can find their own self-reflection, because usually the nastiness or the mean words or whatever out there is something going on in them. I know that, in my history, like if I ever judged somebody or got angry or didn't like something or said something to somebody, I'm not a saint, right? That's all my stuff. Yeah. It's really not about them. And so I just do my best. Doesn't mean it doesn't sting a little. Clearly I do, I do feel things, but I've gotten a little stronger about it. So.
Well, I think it's awesome that you're acknowledging that, because since you have been in business for 12 years, there are a lot of newcomers who that is a huge sticking point for them, feeling any sort of lack of support or negative comments that come through. And even, as much as we can know that, okay, that's someone else's stuff, it's not mine, it stings and it really can slow someone down in a big, big way. So I also know that everything that comes our way can also be a stepping stone, the more we step into that brave. And there was something else I wanted to say about this, about how maybe it'll come back around. But one thing I did want to acknowledge is, so I heard you mention earlier your higher self, and a lot of my audience, not all of my audience, but a lot of my audience are spiritual entrepreneurs. And so I'm just curious, to what degree has maybe insight or inspiration from your higher self factored into when you take action, or has it?
Yeah. So, I mean, a lot, first of all, because I think the illusion I personally, I speak from is that, my ego, my survivor it's doing its job that I gave it, first of all, keep me alive, keep me protected, all those good things. And so, I'm not a victim of my survivor or my ego at all. And knowing that, for me, I believe I have a higher self. I am, in God's image, it's like, I'm perfect the way I am. That's how I was born. Right. And it's like, and I believe that everyone is that's what I believe. And so my challenge has been listening, like hearing my higher self, because if we hang out in ego long enough, we're trying to control it all. We're trying to manage. And, that's kind of like the nature of the survivor. It has to find an answer. It has to figure something out. And it's like, actually, if you just get quiet, you actually start to hear what you need to hear. Exactly. And so huge part of my growth, and I'm continuing. Honestly, it's funny, this week because this is something I'm clearly not 100% masterful at. It is a work in progress, what have you. And I literally told myself last week, I was like, I think I need a silent retreat. I don't know where to do it. I don't know how to do it. I don't know if I can do it, but I need a silent retreat. And I called my coach. I mean, she's my best friend too, but I just said, hey, do you know any place we can go do a silent retreat? I'm like, I don't even know if I'll survive it, but I really think I need to get quiet, and detox from the digital, right? Because that's a problem. But so when I do get quiet enough, and when I know something survivor ego based is going on, and I can step out of it and observe myself and go, okay, this is what's really going on, then you can find the choice in it to, calm down and just kind of be at peace with it and be willing and to listen and hear for the answer. And it doesn't necessarily show up immediately, but it shows up more frequently when you start to, pay attention to that. So yes, I mean, even in the moment when I saw the reason I knew the answer to my inquiry, when I was thinking, why am I not moving forward? Right? Like, what am I afraid of? And then I saw the post on Tony Robbins' Facebook post. That was my higher self that immediately downloaded and said, that's what you're afraid of, Jena. And that's what, and I get to work on, like what emotional, baggage am I, kind of dragging along about that. But the first step was just even hearing it, like even being able to hear that was what was really happening.
I think that's challenging for a lot of people. And I know that for me, it was so I'm just going to acknowledge I'm hearing a little echo. So
I know, here, let me see.
No, because now I can't hear you at all.
Well, I can come back on.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So, but thank you. We can play with that, or, you're silent. You're muted now. I can't hear you at all.
I know. I'm have my finger on the button.
Okay. Got it. Okay. So what was I going to say? Okay. No, I love that you brought up the whole, just even being able to hear yourself, because that was a big challenge for me too. And I tend to think of that as bridging the gap between head and heart. I mean,
yes, absolutely. Exactly.
Yeah. So I think I probably know what you're going to say, but I would love to hear, how do you get quiet and what helps you in being able to hear more clearly?
Yeah. So I do. I have an amazing app on my phone, Calm. So CALM, right? Calm. Yep. So just, browsing around there, just even, and when I even have a playlist on my Spotify that's called Concentration. So it's very calming music. And, so sometimes it's just like calm the noise. Then I do have access to some visualizations, and trust me, I start listening and they knock me out consciously, but my subconscious is listening. And so obviously I'm not hearing my higher self in that moment, but what it's doing is obviously calming the noise that I have going on. And sometimes it's a surrender. It's literally like, catch yourself and say, all right, just surrender to whatever's going on. Just allow it to be there, and then just go do what's next. Go work out, go, cook something, go, whatever it is. And that is definitely something my mentor has taught me over all these years. And that's the practice that I'm in now. And it works because I have come from not only the survival mode, right? It's like, I have to figure it out. I'm the only one I can trust to do it. Right. It's like, go, and don't stop, don't quit. Don't, just go and figure it out. And that's a lot of noise, right? And it's not trusting anything outside of yourself. It's like, it's busy and exhausting.
Yes. So, oh my gosh. I just had a moment earlier today where I realized I wasn't trying to control a situation around me, and I was able to actually, it was so wonderful. I was able to actually pause and go, oh my gosh, I'm trusting.
Nice. Right? Yeah, it's huge.
It was really good. I wanted to ask you, so have you ever had those moments where you're very aware you're the one who needs to pause, and you're the one who needs to pause and stop so that you can get quiet, but yet you're so in the flow, you can't even get yourself to stop. Like, it's like you're so on autopilot. Have you ever had those moments? Yeah, right. Yeah, okay. You're muted right now.
Oh, thank you. I hit it once. I'm trying to manage her,
I appreciate
echo.
it. I know.
Yeah, so I definitely have that. I mean, because you just, for me, I fall back into what I was, I grew up with, kind of the mode of operatum. So, yeah, and it's such a process of just continuing to get self-aware. It's like continuing that practice. And honestly, over the years, I have been, I was like, wow, like how far I've come, like I'm not done. I got more to go, but it was, I am definitely night and day from where I was years and years ago. So, it's just, because I was so in reaction mode, which is your survivor as well, that I couldn't hear anything else. Like, it's way safer to blame everything around you or your, whatever's happening, or blame that person or whatever, than to take any ownership or any personal responsibility. And I'm going to murder the quote. I don't really know the quote word by word, but I think it was Marianne Williamson that said, you can choose a life of being completely living unaware, and, I don't know if she said the word miserable, but a miserable existence, being unaware, or you can choose to be consciously aware, and, it's kind of like, and be willing to deal with whatever shows up, something of that nature. And I read that a long time ago. One of the first books I caught on to when I was like 18 or 19 was Return to Love. Which is a oldie but goodie, and and it references Course in Miracles and things like that, and all that's still on my bookshelf, and all of that is still, it comes through even the teachings of my current mentor, and so there's really only one thought, like it just kind of, you find your messenger, and whoever that is, and just learn from it. It's not right or wrong. It's just like whoever shows up and you can hear, then like kind of latch onto that for whatever time frame. And so she was such an influence early on. And what was interesting is that I read all the books. I was reading probably all my 20s. I was like, I got to figure this out. I got to figure this out. I got to figure this out. And yet, until I found support, that kind of one-on-one support, which it becomes an experience. Right. So I think, I mean, I'm a business coach. So bottom line is, whether you're trying to master business, or you're trying to master your mind, or you're trying to master athlete, like you're an athlete for the Olympics, I mean, like whatever it is, I believe you need to have the coach. You've got to have that sounding board that you can aspire to step up to, and also be kind of the voice of reason, or the reflection that you need, because the book it's not going to talk back to you.
Right.
It's not going to self-reflect.
Exactly.
So that's what I was stuck in, is I'm reading a lot of books, but I'm not getting the experiential part that I needed to see to actually start putting it into practice, and then being accountable to someone for the practice.
Yes.
That's a huge piece. Yeah.
Yeah. The book's not going to say, so how'd you do on that?
Right. What did you notice? How did that work? No, they're not, it's just not going to say anything.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's the next level if you're really, wanting to master.
I love it. Okay. So for anybody listening who maybe isn't familiar with Calm is a meditation app. I just wanted to acknowledge that part.
Yes.
And I know my mom likes that one a lot too. I have been using Insight Timer, but Calm is awesome too.
Yeah. All of them work. Whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it. Tons of free stuff out there. It's awesome. Yeah. So, okay. In addition to that, I'm just curious, are there any other self-care things that you do to support yourself and continuing to find the ease with, getting quiet and listening and moving forward? I know people who are well, this is my take on it. People who are operating from up here and go and powerhouses, we can really burn ourselves out at some point too, because we're not taking breaks. So do you have anything else that you do? Just curious.
Yeah, no, that's a good question for sure. And I am one of those that have, go. And ironically, last week I came up against exhaustion. I came up against not only mental and just like pressure exhaustion, self-imposed people. And most things are. And also I had 2 days of some physical exhaustion. I was, helping to put together from scratch, like an anniversary party, it went off beautifully. But I just noticed, I showed up on Sunday and I was exhausted, like mentally, emotionally, physically, like all of it. And so right or wrong, I do just kind of veg out a little. I just, I'm not great at always meditating. Like that is not always my favorite thing to do. And yet I still have to put myself into the practice of it. I mean, that's the honest truth. And so, there are some times where and I've honestly done this since I was a child, is I like movies and I like, my Netflix and Hulu. So if I can just kind of veg out a little bit and not be responsible, that's where the pressure for me comes from.
Okay.
I'm telling you, I self-imposed it, but, and so sometimes I really enjoy that. So I like to just kind of veg out or hang out, and I have, my family and daughter. And so maybe we go do something or we drive around, or nature helps. I do enjoy, walking in the park or something like that. And my favorite place is the ocean. So the good news is I'm leaving tomorrow for my client mastermind. You just mentioned yours earlier. And all of my clients are flying into Destin, Florida. So that is one of my biggest happy places of all times, is to be on that white sand and the ocean, because the ocean sound is super soothing for me. And I'm very connected to the water. And so, of course, living in Houston, I don't get a whole lot of that. I've got to create it. So I created it. And so from that, it's just finding what works for you. It's finding, number one, becoming clear that it's going on, that you might need to step out or step away. Mm-hmm. And so whether it's meditation and like I said, I listen to visualizations occasionally, and I should do those every day, but the shoulds will just get me in trouble. So, right. And just sometimes slow down, right? Just slow down, take a break, and whatever you enjoy or you find, enjoyment in, do that too. And so I do have to keep myself very conscious of that, because I have a tendency to run myself ragged. So
you have like a to-do list with 80 million things.
Yes. Yeah. Learn to delegate. That's, that's a fun one, right? Yeah. So my team's very helpful if I just give it to them. Don't try to do it all. And I'm actually getting some additional coaching around that. It's like, it's like I create a life where, in my mind and my imagination, I create a life where I have freedom of time. I've created the business called freedom of location. I can literally do it anywhere. So nice. That was step one. But now it's like time and money and choice, like that. I'm freedom obsessed. That's really what that's my mission, and I believe, the money and business success in that manner is really about the freedom it brings. It's not just about the money, right? Yeah. Money's not going to make you happy or what have you. And happiness doesn't actually exist unless you say so. Right. And for me, and
we don't need anything really to change to become happy. We can choose to be happy now.
Yes.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Every experience is ours to create. Right.
Yep.
So yeah, I definitely know, and that's part of just continuing to learn yourself and learn what you're really doing, what's your ego and all that really doing and how are you operating, and is it getting to where you want to go? And so when I've created a life where I have those freedoms, and that's what I'm stepping more and more into, there are things that I have to give up. There are comfort, it's not necessarily going to be my comfort zone. And one of the things I started to notice, and this was a conversation on my mastermind call today with my clients. I said, what do we have to give up to have what we really, really want? And because there's a payoff, there's something we get from the hustle. And it may be just the fix. It may just be the accomplishment. And I'm guilty, I spent a lot of time finding the value in I did it.
Right. Feels good.
Yeah, I feel good. And it's not to take that away, but to be really clear, what's happening. And then you get to start to choose it. I mean, still choose to be great, still choose to be accomplishment, right? However, are you so hooked into it that you can't sit still? and do nothing and still see your value or still see the goodness, you know? So those are all the kind of things that I suggest, and I also am in the work of, right? So, you know, it's just a huge opportunity. Like, I love what you said. I absolutely agree. The head to the heart is exactly what I'm up to as well.
Well, and I love that you acknowledge that, you know, again, even though you've been doing this for 12 years, you are still a work in progress. We all are. As long as we're alive, there will always be something more to work towards or improve or, you know.
Yeah.
So perfect. So, and of course, I just ended that with the word perfect. Nothing's perfect.
Or everything is perfect the way it is.
Or exactly. I know. I love that. Okay. So let's talk a little bit more about your business. So Brave Masters, let's start with, who are your ideal clients?
So ideally, definitely women entrepreneurs or coaches, consultants, and service-based professionals. And I truly have helped, you know, all types. But anybody that is really in that service-based space, service-based space, is what I attract. It's what I really am, you know, love helping people with, and you know, and I think it's an opportunity to, you know, you get to create your value and step into it more. And so that's really who I'm after. And the other flip side of that may be what they do, but who I really resonate with are the drivers, right? The driven and, you know, and knowledge seekers such as myself, and those that are really, you know, wanting to do big things in the world and figure out and are on a personal development journey, because I think it's important. I know that probably 90% of my success is the mind work, right? The mindset stuff. So, so I do look for the individuals that are open to that and are coachable and are driven and action takers. And yes, I love rapid responders, as I call them. And the only reason I know all that is it's who I am. So, you know, we resonate with what I call our it factors, and our it factors are who we are. And so clearly I can tell we have a lot in common. You know, it's like, that's what's going on, is when we really connect at some core level, it's because we really just kind of understand each other. So those it factors are what I'm looking for. And certainly those women entrepreneurs that are, you know, they're usually struggling with, you know, like they don't know how to get the business off the ground. They don't know how to get themselves visible. They certainly are struggling with getting their brave on. That's why I call myself a brave strategist, because I can support you there. And I certainly love helping people with, you know, strategically getting visible and knowing how to profit, you know, from their actions and their decisions. So, you know, and ultimately I think the brand is who you are. So it's helping people get clear on who that is and being able to articulate it. So
so you mentioned knowing your value earlier.
Yeah.
And I'm just curious, do you have any tips to share with us on how someone can start to understand or know their value?
Yeah. So first of all, for me, you know, value it's a perception, right? And we have to perceive our own value before anybody else can.
Right.
And so the only place you can look for perceived value and the exercise, like some people are like, my clients, for instance, they're like, I can't charge that. I said, okay, let me ask you a few questions, right? And I say, how many years have you known what you've known? How many years have you been experienced in what you are doing now in your business? How much money have you invested in knowing it? How many years and how much time have you invested in knowing it? Because if you add all that up, and it was funny, I just wrote this on a Post-it note like yesterday. Awesome. Experience, demand, like the demand in the marketplace, okay. The value you bring someone, and the positioning, the brand positioning is huge. All of those pieces also add to the value you are, and it's all perception, right? And so if you understand that even though you might be starting your business today, but you've been in the work, you've invested, who knows? I mean, college or coaches or study or like experience, just getting out there like I've done, right? Just get out there and do it. I teach from experience. I'm not going to teach you something I don't already know or haven't done for myself. And I'm honest about that. It's like, nope, that's not my wheelhouse. I haven't done that yet. Doesn't mean I won't next year, but until then. And so that has value, right? I'm the one that's done it. So it's like, or I've paid for it or, whatever that is. So I always have people look at it, because they want to grab onto something a little more tangible.
Right. Yep.
Instead of this esoteric conversation. And I just say, great. So let's look at how many years have you had experience in what you do, not your business, not the thing, the vehicle, right? And I've been at work at doing what I do. I was a controller for 8 years and, different firms in corporate America. I've also been a makeup artist and a fashion designer. And let me just go down the list.
I love it. This is awesome. Fun.
And I'm like, I can teach that too if I needed to. But, so it's like, gosh, look at all your experience in life. Yeah. It does have value. It brings you to where you are today. And if you teach from that place, if you service people from that place, then number one, it comes naturally to you. And I think that's the pitfall is like, we've done it so long that it feels so easy. Yep. So easy, all of a sudden becomes no value. And I'm like, where did we get that? Right. So yeah, we got to flip that story.
Yeah. What becomes second nature? We don't even realize that other people don't know the same things that we know.
Yeah, we diminish the value of the fact that we are good at it, or it comes easy, or it's our second nature. And so, yeah, I'm constantly bringing my clients back to that. I'm like, no, that is your magic, right? That is what people will pay for because they don't have that. They have their thing. Right. And so I think we have to just get really grounded in the truth of that, and then we have to figure out the brand positioning. And I always talk about, do you want to be Walmart or Neiman Marcus of your industry? Do you want to be, a Chevy or a Rolls Royce? Which one? Because you get to choose because they did, right? Those companies, right? Yeah. The business, vehicles that they chose picked a sandbox to play in, and they're not trying to be something they're not or don't want to be. Right. And so if you want to be the Rolls Royce, then it requires something. Notice the details, notice the quality, notice the price tag. Yet they're not trying to be Chevy, right? And so no matter who we are, we get to be intentional about picking our brand position, and then we can, then we have pricing strategies and things like that come with it. And we look at that more strategically, but people are so afraid to ask for the money and ask for what they're worth in my experience, because they're not grounded in their value. So that's where we have to begin, in my opinion.
Wow. Okay. So I'm going to ask you a question I've never asked anybody else. We are getting into the latter half of the year, and I'm just curious, do you have any, we're still a few months away, but still, do you happen to have any New Year type rituals or traditions that you do to set yourself up for accomplishing your goals for the year? So whatever you call it, whether it be a resolution or goals or anything else, do you have anything like that you do for yourself?
Yeah. So it's interesting because I used to be really hooked to, like, from January 1st to 12/31, I gotta get all this done. Right. Okay. And that can be exhausting. And then, then I feel failed if I don't hit the target. And so I've gotten a lot more graceful with myself about it's like, decide what I want and then get unattached, create the goals. I'm goal oriented by all means. And I'm target oriented, like money targets and, how many calls do I need to, make this month, all that. And then you just have to commit to the action of it. However, I give myself a lot more grace around hitting it or not hitting it on the dot, like by 12/31, because that's such a psyche, right? That's such a opportunity to bring you down the rabbit hole. So I always, for me, I continue to create the way I want to feel, to create the way I want my life to show up. And so here's the thing. It's like, if I said, I want to make $10,000 a month, this year, maybe that's somebody's goal. And so that's 120,000 a year. Right. Mm-hmm. And so if they made 110 should we cry?
No.
Right? And what if we made 120 on month 13? Like, so what?
Yeah.
So, yeah, ritual wise, I'm goal oriented all the time. And I do like to kind of look at toward in this, especially December. So December is my birthday. December is my wedding anniversary. December is Christmas.
Wow.
Yeah. I'm like, let's just start everything in December. And so I do as much as I can to kind of reflect on the year, like what did I do this year? And what do I have coming up in the next year that I get to be excited about and look forward to? And just kind of like the thing I did last year where I said, okay, what's 2018 about? I said, getting big online, right? Going big online. So I look and say, what am I going to do in the year to come? And I haven't done that exercise yet, so don't ask me.
I'm not going to ask you. I know.
I'm kidding.
I'm thinking some people might be starting to think about, next
but they
year.
Should. Yeah. We're coming into October, right? So definitely, this is the time to start looking at, what does it feel like? What does it look like? What is the kind of maybe the one big thing that you're going to put your brave on, right? Yeah. So, and I do. It's like, it's like you can set the goals like and the details and the numbers and the dates and all that, and then start to be unattached to whether or not you actually get it on the date versus like get to it eventually, right? Yeah. So that you don't set yourself up to experience the failure of it all, and all that crazy stuff. So, so fourth quarter, it's time to start looking ahead and going, all right, and I do that every quarter, do that every 6 months, like whatever it is, but, keep looking, to what you're creating in the future. So, yeah.
Well, I want to go back to something you said at the very beginning. You said that after your first year, you found yourself bankrupt.
Yeah. The first business. Yeah.
Okay. So, and I know that it's not uncommon for people in their first year to realize, oh, wow, there's so much more that I didn't know. I can certainly relate to that.
Right.
And so what would you say to your former self, or just say, someone else who might be in that situation? What might you say to someone in that situation to help them keep moving forward and not say, oh, that's it, forget it?
Yeah, right. Go backwards. So yeah, I had to ask myself that question the day after that I closed the store and walked into my house and didn't leave it, like I wasn't going to the store anymore. And the truth is that I think it really comes down to getting clear on what you don't want and what you do want. And that is that's the blanket question I asked myself the next day. And I said, and so I could sometimes like what you want may be foggy because your sense of what just occurred or what your expectations were that didn't happen, like all that. And so, so sometimes it's easier to answer the question, okay, what do I know that I don't want? Right. And so don't go towards that. Keep going the other direction. So I saw real clearly, I didn't want to go back and work for someone else. That was the moment after I closed the store. I'm like, I got to figure out anything. I got to figure out to do anything other than that. And I did. I'll tell you this. I called my ex-boss and I said, all right, so listen, this is what, I had to tuck my tail, right? I was like, 1 year later, this is not happening. And, I just,
that
again,
takes brave right there.
That's what I was going to say. I was like, again, a very brave conversation, like, suck it up, buttercup.
Oh my gosh.
But this was what's funny is I was clear on what I didn't want. Right. Okay. And so I called and I just said, listen, I said, this is what's happening and I do not want to be hired. I'm calling because I wanted to see because you're part of my resource and network. And I said, do you have any contracts? My work, what I'm capable of doing as an outsourced controller. I said, I just need a couple projects to tide me over financially to stay afloat. He said, well, funny enough, we're not hiring. And funny enough, I do have 2 contracts that I can pass to you.
Awesome.
And I got them, right? Because he knew me, he knew my work, he knew what I was worth, but I was like, I don't want to be a W-2. And so sure enough, just asking like hard question, kind of like suck it up. Yeah. yeah, I think when people are in, it's kind of like, that's what happens when we have really, go for the big audacious goals, people. I'm not saying dream small.
Right.
I'm saying, however, be unattached to when they show up. Because if you're attached to, okay, I had a client that did this and I was like, wow, we're really going to set ourselves up to, it's not going to work. If you come at it from, okay, if this doesn't work in a year, I'm going to quit. Like, do you get in a marriage and go, if this doesn't work in a year, I'm going to divorce you?
Right.
Like,
Right.
I hope not, and so marry what you want and it may change form. So I wanted entrepreneurship, but it has changed form multiple times, like 4 times now, right? In 12 years, it's the iterations of me being an entrepreneur has looked very different over the last 12 years. So, and everything is, like you said, the stepping stone to what's next. And all of it still led me to what I wanted, not go back to what I didn't want. And you have to, it's like, be resourceful and, and it's like, if you're constantly giving yourself a way out, like if this doesn't work in 6 months, I'm out. If I don't make this amount of money in these amount of days, I'm done. Like, right. I don't ever think those thoughts. I don't care when it happens. It's going to happen. That's the belief. And then I just stay in the game. And so that's what Brave Masters is all about, is staying in the game and keep getting your brave on until it works. And then, and don't quit. I don't quit. I'm not going to quit. It's going to look different, but I'm not quitting. Right. And I think that's what's important, is you have to have a no quit about it.
There's a difference between being aware of, okay, if things don't work out, well, then I might have to do something else for a little bit to tide me over, like what you did. But that's right. Different. Yeah, that's different from saying, well, if this doesn't happen, then this is what I'm definitely happening. Because in a way, that's saying, well, if you are, if you're able to say that you're definitely at some point going to do this other thing you don't want to do and go back to, well, then that's absolutely going to happen.
Yeah, you're still creating that, right?
Yeah, exactly. Right. Okay, so we are coming to the end of our show, but I have so enjoyed speaking with you today, Jennifer, and I'm like, I'm gonna have to share this in more and more places because
I love it.
Yeah, for sure. So, are there any final words that you'd like to share with the audience to, as a takeaway or something?
Yeah. So, I know I've probably said a lot, but I just want people to know that, it's like, it's not like I'm anybody special or someone like unique in the way called, I'm special called God-given, but I'm just like you. I'm just a person on a mission. I've got the things I want to create for my life and my children and my family and for myself. And so if I can figure it out and go from bankrupt to brave master, like anybody can. And it's just like no joke. And I've gone from an abusive childhood and moving out at 14. And then, it's like, it's not about how hard your life was, but it is about like, look, you have it in you, and it's like, you can come from things that are not so ideal, or you can have circumstances surrounding you, but every single thing is a choice. Every single thing is about how you decide what you want and what you're going to do about it. And when you come from that place, nobody can stop you. There's not a circumstance that can stop you, and certainly not a person that can stop you. And I think we just have to start trusting ourselves and finding the mentors or the support when needed. I have 2, like I don't live without them. And just, brave daily is what I want them to hear. So brave daily. Yeah.
Okay. And so where can people go to find out more about you if they'd like to connect after the show?
Yeah, sure. Simply bravemasters.com is my website. And I'd love to just invite people to my Brave Entrepreneurs Facebook group. Just a great, almost, or getting close to 1,000 people in there, but just really good quality people that are engaging and supportive and, action taking and all that. And I do a lot of training and, stuff like that in there. So they can go to bravemaster.com/brave FB, like Facebook, FB. And so I'd love to invite people to just kind of join me there, and would love to see you there too. So if you want to. Yeah. So it's great. It's great synergy.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, thank you for being on my show today. I really enjoyed our conversation.
Me too. Yeah. Great knowing you.
You as well. Yes. And so thank you to all those who have watched today. Again, if you're watching on the replay, do go ahead and leave a comment, share this out, especially if you're an entrepreneur or if you know an entrepreneur. Most likely they've been through so many things that Jena shared with us today or something similar. A lot of this is very relatable and just really good to hear stories like this because you recognize, oh, I'm not alone, because being an entrepreneur does take getting your brave on,
Right.
but it also feels very much like a solo journey many times. And you think you're alone, you're the only one, but you're not. So thank you for being here today. To find out more about future Every Day is a New Day episodes, you can, again, go to Facebook at Kim O'Neill Coaching. O'Neill is O'Neill. And click on the events tab. You'll see all the future episodes I've got coming up. Again, go to YouTube, Kim O'Neill Coaching, or check out my BingeNetworks.tv channel, which is also Every Day is a New Day. And I hope you remember that every day is always a new day. Wherever you are today does not have to be where you are tomorrow. Again, I love what Jena was sharing with us today. She says that she's not any different. What she is she's very strong and courageous, and she got her brave on. And what I kept hearing as she was talking about that is #keep going. I use that a lot.
#keep going, #get your brave on, right? Yeah, exactly.
Yes. So keep going. I think the other thing, Jena, so another thing that came through I want to share is that being in that survival mode, the gift of that is it does support you in keeping going. But then there is that moment at some point you come across and realize, okay, it's time to switch gears. I no longer need to be in survival mode. You've done a fantastic job. If you're still here today, you've done it. You're doing great. And when you're ready, you can start to switch over into that thriving mode and live your life from that place. So
yes, exactly. That's good.
Thank you. Well, I was inspired by you, so thank you.
Yeah, that was good.
So we're going to wrap it up. Thank you for being here. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day. I'll see you next time. Bye for now.